The night sky was quiet, filled with millions of stars, shining softly above the dark earth forest. Then suddenly silence broke. A streak of fire cut across the heavens. It moved fast, too fast, leaving a burning trail behind. Birds fled from the trees. Animals hid in fear. The ground shook as something strange fell from the sky. The crash was loud. A burst of light lit the forest, smoke rose high, and the smell of burning metal spread in the air. In the middle of broken trees and shattered earth lay a small craft, not like any human machine. Its body curved with strange symbols glowing faintly. Sparks jumped from broken wires, and deep inside, something moved. A figure crawled out. Weak, trembling, her skin pale with a soft glow, her eyes bright like stars. She looked young, but not human. Her hair silver, her face thin and sharp. She gasped for breath. Each step heavy, she pressed her hand against the soil, as if touching earth for the first time. Her heart beat fast, not only from the crash, but from fear. Fear of being hunted, fear of being found. She whispered in a language no human could understand. Her voice shaky. They will come. She knew exile was never freedom. Her people would follow, they always followed. Not far from the crash, a boy was walking home. His name was Daniel. A teenager curious by nature. He had seen the light in the sky and ran toward it. He thought maybe it was a falling star. Maybe he would find something rare. But as he got closer, he felt something was wrong. The air was hot, the smell strange, and the forest too quiet. Daniel pushed through the bushes, his eyes wide. In front of him was the wreck of the strange craft. Glowing softly, broken and alien, he froze. He had never seen anything like this. His heart raced. He wanted to run. But something told him to stay, to look closer. Then he heard it. A soft sound like a whisper. He turned his head, and in the smoke he saw her. The girl standing weakly, her eyes shining bright, not like any human eyes. Daniel's breath caught, fear filled his chest. Yet curiosity pulled him closer. She saw him too. Her body stiff, ready to run, but she was too weak. She stared at him, this human boy. So fragile compared to her people. But in his eyes she saw something she did not expect. Not hate, not violence, but surprise, fear, and wonder. Daniel whispered, almost to himself, "What are you?" She tilted her head, struggling to form words. Her mouth opened, and with a broken accent she said, "No. Danger, help." Then she collapsed on the ground, her body shaking. Daniel rushed forward, his fear now mixed with worry. He bent down, his hands shaking as he touched her arm. Her skin was warm, almost glowing under his fingers. She looked weak, as if the crash had drained all her strength. He did not understand who she was, or what she was, but he understood one thing. She needed help. The night wind blew through the trees, carrying the smell of smoke far away in the distance. Faint red lights blinked in the sky, moving slowly, searching, hunting. The girl's warning was true. She was not alone. Something else was coming. Daniel looked around. Panic growing in his chest, he knew he could not call the police. He could not tell anyone. They would take her away. They would never understand, and maybe they would hurt her. He felt it deep inside. She was different, and she was in danger. He pulled her arm over his shoulder. Struggling with her weight, she was light, but still heavy for him. He dragged her away from the burning wreck, step by step, his heart racing, his mind shouting questions. What if someone saw me? What if they find us? What if she's dangerous? But his feet kept moving, his grip on her never letting go. Behind them, the wreck sparked again. A faint signal pulsed into the sky, invisible to humans, but clear to those who were looking. Far above Earth, ships turned their course, eyes locked on the signal. The hunt had begun. Daniel did not know any of this. He only knew he had found something impossible, something out of this world, and now it was in his hands. As he entered the shadows of the forest, carrying the alien girl deeper into hiding, the night grew darker, the silence heavier, and the danger closer. She whispered one last time, her voice barely audible. "They are coming," and Daniel realized his life would never be the same again. The night was still dark when Daniel dragged the strange girl into an old wooden shed behind his grandfather's abandoned farm. The place smelled of dust and hay. No one ever came there anymore. That made it the safest place he knew. He laid her gently on the floor, his chest rising and falling fast, his hands trembling. The girl's skin glowed faintly in the dim light. Like the soft shine of the moon, her silver hair spread around her face. She looked both fragile and powerful. Daniel crouched beside her, unsure of what to do. His mind was a storm of questions. Who is she? Where did she come from? What if someone finds out? She opened her eyes slowly, her pupils glowing bright for a moment, then fading. She looked at him, confused. Her lips moved, but her words were broken. No, tell no one, she whispered, her voice weak but filled with urgency. Daniel swallowed hard. I won't, he said softly, though he was not sure why he promised. Maybe because he could see the fear in her eyes, fear not of him but of something else, something far bigger. He pulled an old blanket from a corner and covered her. She flinched at first, not used to human kindness, but then relaxed, her breathing steadied. Daniel sat down across from her, keeping his distance, but his eyes never leaving her face. The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of night insects outside. Finally, Daniel spoke. What's your name? She blinked as if she did not fully understand, then placed a hand on her chest. Ilara, she said slowly, her accent sharp, heavy, not like any earth tongue, but the word was clear enough. Ilara, Daniel repeated. The name felt strange and beautiful on his lips. I'm Daniel. Her glowing eyes studied him. She tried to mimic. Dan. Yell, she said, her voice softer now, almost curious. Daniel managed a small smile, though his heart was still pounding. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a water bottle, unscrewed it and handed it to her. She stared at it, unsure, then took it carefully, sniffed the liquid and drank slowly, her throat moving with each gulp. When she finished, she whispered, Thank you. The sound of her gratitude surprised Daniel. It felt normal, almost human, yet he knew she was not human at all. He wanted to ask her everything, where she came from, why she crashed, what she meant by they are coming. But before he could, she pressed her hand to her forehead and shook her head. No, many words. Later, she said, her English broken but her meaning clear. She was too weak to explain now. Daniel nodded, forcing himself to be patient, though his curiosity burned inside him. A strange silence filled the shed again, but this time it was not empty. It was heavy with the presence of something new, something Daniel had never imagined in his life. He was sitting across from an alien, a living, breathing being from another world, and she was trusting him. Suddenly, Ilara's body stiffened, her eyes widened. She looked toward the sky as if hearing something Daniel could not. Her hand trembled. Hunters, she whispered, her voice sharp with fear. Daniel's stomach tightened. He remembered the red lights he had seen in the distance. Hunters? You mean they're after you? She nodded weakly. Exile. They follow. Always follow. Her voice cracked, her hands curling into fists. If they find me here, Earth, not safe. Daniel's breath caught, his mind spinning. Earth not safe? That meant danger not only to him, but to everyone, his family, his friends, maybe even the whole town. But he looked at her shaking figure, her pale skin glowing faintly under the dim light, and something in him refused to leave her. No one will find you here, he said firmly, though his own fear trembled under his voice. I'll keep you hidden. Ilara's eyes softened. For the first time, she looked at him not just with fear, but with trust. Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile, small but real. Daniel sat closer now, leaning against the wall. The night outside grew colder, but inside the shed, a strange warmth began to form. Two strangers from two worlds sharing the same silence, both carrying fear but also something else, a fragile beginning of connection. He pulled out a sandwich from his backpack, the one he had packed for himself earlier. He offered it to her. She sniffed it, then took a careful bite. Her face showed confusion at first, then surprise, then relief. Good, she whispered, very good. Daniel laughed quietly, a sound breaking through the tension. It's just bread and cheese, he said, but I'm glad you like it. For a brief moment, they both forgot the danger outside, forgot the hunters in the sky, forgot the wreck still smoking in the forest. It was just two beings, human and alien, sitting together, sharing food, sharing silence, and unknowingly beginning a bond that would change everything. But outside, the night was not calm. Far in the distance, engines hummed low, shadows moved across the clouds, alien machines scanning, searching. The hunters were closer now, following the signal from the crash, every second bringing them nearer. Ilara shivered suddenly, her voice urgent. They come soon, she said, her glowing eyes meeting Daniel's. We must hide deeper. Daniel's chest tightened, fear clawed at him, but he nodded quickly. Then we'll move, but not tonight. You're too weak. We'll wait. Then I'll take you where no one can find you." She studied him for a long moment, her breathing heavy, then she whispered softly, almost like a secret, "You, different, Daniel, not like others." Daniel looked at her, unsure how to answer, but inside he felt a spark, a strange warmth that he could not explain, something that whispered this was only the beginning. The night closed around them, the hunters drawing nearer, but inside the shed for now, the alien girl was safe, hidden, her trust placed in a boy who had never asked for this, yet could not turn away. And in the silence, two destinies, human and alien, began to weave together. Far above the earth, hidden beyond the clouds, 3 silver ships moved like shadows, silent and deadly, their shapes sharp like blades cutting through the night. Inside them were the hunters, soldiers bred for one purpose, to track and capture those who tried to escape. Their glowing eyes studied the signals flashing across their screens. The pulse from Alara's broken craft still echoed faintly. She could not hide forever. "She is near," one of them said, his voice cold and metallic. "The exile cannot run, not here, not on this primitive world." The leader tilted his head, his armor glowing with pale light. "Primitive or not, no mistakes, find her. And her." Back on Earth, Daniel woke with a start inside the shed. The first light of dawn was touching the forest outside. For a moment he thought it was a dream. The crash, the glowing girl, the fear. But then he turned his head and saw her. Alara, curled under the blanket, breathing slowly, her silver hair catching the morning light. She was real. Too real. Daniel rubbed his eyes. His mind was heavy. He wanted to believe he had done the right thing by helping her. But doubt gnawed at him. What if she really is dangerous? What if the hunters she spoke of are real? Then Alara stirred. Her glowing eyes opened and she sat up slowly. She looked weak but stronger than last night. "They are close," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it carried weight. Daniel frowned. "How do you know?" She touched her temple. "I feel them, the bond, still there. I was one of them once, before exile." Her words sank deep into Daniel. "You mean, they're not just coming, they're connected to you?" Alara nodded slowly, shame flickering across her face. "Yes, they will not stop. Hunters follow until capture, or death." Daniel's chest tightened. He thought about his family, his town, the people who had no idea what danger was coming. For a second he thought about running, leaving her here, pretending none of this was real. But when his eyes met hers, he couldn't. She looked both powerful and fragile. Strong enough to fight, yet broken enough to need him. "We'll figure something out," he said, though his voice shook. At the same time, deep in the forest, the hunters landed. Their ships unfolded like metal beasts, tall and silver, blending with the trees. They stepped out, scanning the ground with strange devices, their boots making no sound on the soil. One bent down, picking up a shard of glowing wreckage. "She is near. She hides with a human." The leader's eyes narrowed. Humans, fragile creatures. Easy prey. He raised his arm, releasing drones the size of hawks. They lifted into the air, wings buzzing, scanning for heat and sound. The hunt had begun. Daniel and Alara stepped outside the shed. The morning air was fresh, but Alara's face was tense, her glowing eyes scanning the sky. "We must move," she said, her voice sharp now. "They send machines. They smell me." Daniel grabbed his backpack, heart racing. Where can we go?" Alara hesitated, then pointed toward the deeper forest. "Water, river, flow hide signals. If we reach it, harder for them to track." Daniel nodded. He had fished in that river before, miles away, hidden between cliffs and trees. It could work. They began to move, their steps quick but careful. Daniel led the way, Alara close behind, her movements slow but steady. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves made Daniel's chest tighten. He felt eyes on them, even when the forest looked empty. Suddenly, a faint hum filled the air. Daniel looked up and froze. Above the trees, a drone hovered, its red eye glowing, scanning. Alara's face hardened. "Run," she whispered. Daniel didn't think twice. He grabbed her hand and pulled her through the underbrush. The drone shrieked, a piercing sound that echoed through the forest. In the distance, more hums answered back. The hunters knew. Far behind them, the leader's device beeped. He smiled coldly. "Found her." The hunters moved faster now, their silver armor blending with the trees, their steps silent, their weapons glowing. The game was no longer a search. It was a chase. Daniel's lungs burned as he pushed through branches and mud. Alara stumbled beside him, but her glowing eyes focused forward, determined. The sound of the drones grew louder, closer. Then as they reached a clearing, Alara stopped suddenly. Her body trembled, her hand clutching her chest. "I can stop them." For a moment, Daniel turned to her, panic in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "You can't even stand." Her eyes glowed brighter, a sharp light burning in them. She raised her hand, and for a moment the forest shook. The nearest drone froze in midair, sparks bursting from it before it dropped lifeless to the ground. Alara gasped, nearly falling, but Daniel caught her. She looked pale, weaker than before. "It drains me," she whispered, "but it slows them." Daniel tightened his grip. "Then we keep moving. Just hold on." The river was still far. The hunters were closer. The forest had turned into a deadly maze with danger in every shadow. As they pushed forward, Daniel's mind replayed her words. Exile, hunters, capture, or death. This was no small secret. This was war spilling into his world. And yet, even as fear twisted in his chest, another thought grew louder. I won't leave her. Not now. Not ever. Alara leaned against him, weak but alive, her trust placed in him alone, and behind them, the hunters advanced, silent and merciless, their red eyes cutting through the trees. The chase had only just begun. The forest was alive with sound, not the natural sound of birds or wind, but the hum of alien machines, the buzz of drones scanning the air, the crunch of armored boots moving silently over roots and leaves. The hunters were close now, their search no longer careful but fast, direct, certain. Daniel's heart pounded as he pulled Alara through the thick brush. Branches whipped against his face, mud clung to his shoes, but he did not stop. Behind him, Alara stumbled, her glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. "Keep going," she whispered, her breath short. "River." Almost. Daniel didn't answer. His lungs burned, his legs shook, but his grip on her hand tightened. If he let go, even for a moment, he knew she would collapse. A shriek split the air. A drone had spotted them again. Daniel glanced up and his chest froze. Red beams cut through the trees, scanning the ground like spears of light. He yanked Alara to the side, dragging her down into the shadows of a fallen log. The drone hovered above, its eye glowing like fire. Daniel held his breath. Alara closed her eyes, her hand trembling as she raised it weakly. A pulse of strange energy flickered around her, almost invisible, like ripples in the air. The drone twitched, spun, then dropped with a hiss, smoke rising from its broken body. But the cost was clear. Alara sagged against Daniel, her face pale, her voice weak. "It drains me. Every time." Daniel bit his lip. He could see she was fading, but stopping was not an option. The hunters would hear the crash. They would come. He had to keep moving. Far behind them, 3 hunters crouched near the fallen drone. The leader touched the broken metal, then looked toward the trees. His glowing eyes narrowed. "She uses her power," he said coldly, "but it makes her weak. Soon she will fall. The human only delays her end," another hunter hissed. "Shall we strike now?" The leader raised a hand. "Not yet. Let them run." Fear makes prey careless. And with silent steps they advanced, closing the distance, their silver forms blending into the shadows of the forest. Daniel and Alara reached a steep slope. Below it, the sound of rushing water filled the air. The river. Relief flickered through Daniel's chest. "There," he gasped, pointing. But before they could move down, a sharp flash cut through the trees. A red beam burned into the ground beside them, sending soil flying. Daniel's stomach twisted. They were already here. "Run!" Alara shouted, her voice breaking. Daniel pulled her forward, sliding down the muddy slope, his hand scraping against rocks. Alara stumbled after him, her body weak but moving. Behind them, shadows appeared at the top of the slope. 3 hunters, tall and silent, their glowing eyes fixed on the prey below. Daniel hit the bottom, pain shooting through his knees, but he didn't stop. He grabbed Alara again, pulling her across the shallow edge of the river. The cold water splashed against their legs, carrying the scent of mud and leaves. "Water hides us," Alara whispered, her voice shaking. But not long. They adapt fast, Daniel gritted his teeth. He had no plan, no weapon, only fear and determination. But he would not give up. Not now. The hunters followed, moving down the slope with ease, their armor gleaming in the morning light. One raised a weapon, a thin spear of energy forming in his hand. He threw it fast and sharp, aiming for Daniel. At the last second, Alara pushed him aside. The spear struck the riverbank, exploding with fire and light, sending water flying. Daniel fell into the mud, coughing but alive. He turned to her, eyes wide. "You saved me." Ilara's lips trembled in a faint smile.
"I told you."
"They want me, not you. But if you stay, you die too." Daniel grabbed her shoulders firmly. "I'm not leaving. You're not alone anymore." Her eyes widened at his words. For a moment, the fear in her face softened, replaced by something else. Trust, fragile but real. They pushed deeper along the river, the hunters following close behind. Daniel's shoes slipped on the wet stones, his chest heavy with every breath. He knew he could not outrun machines forever. Then he saw it, an opening in the rocks, a narrow cave hidden by vines and water. He pulled Ilara toward it. "There, hide." They stumbled inside, pressing against the cold stone walls. Water dripped from above, and the sound of the river echoed outside. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips, urging silence. The hunters arrived moments later, their glowing eyes scanning the water, their drones buzzing above. One stepped closer to the cave, his head tilting as if sensing something. Daniel's heart slammed in his chest. He pulled Ilara closer, shielding her with his body, though he knew it would not matter if they were found. The hunter paused, the red glow of his eye scanning the entrance. Then after a long moment, he turned away. Tracks lost. They cannot run forever. Spread out. The prey bleeds strength. With a hiss, the hunters moved downriver, their steps fading into the distance. Daniel exhaled slowly, his body trembling. He looked at Ilara, who leaned weakly against the stone. Her glowing eyes flickered, tired but alive. "We're safe," Daniel whispered, though he knew it was only for now. Ilara nodded faintly. "Safe, but not free. They will return, stronger." Daniel clenched his fists. Fear burned in his chest, but so did anger. These hunters, these monsters, thought they could chase and control, but he was human, and humans did not give up. As Ilara closed her eyes, resting in the safety of the cave, Daniel looked out at the river, his jaw tight. For the first time, he realized this was not just about helping a stranger. This was about fighting back. The chase had only begun, but something deeper was rising in him. A fire, a promise they would not take her, not while he still breathed. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting pale light over the forest. Daniel stood at the edge of the cave, his eyes scanning the river. Ilara rested behind him, too weak to move, her silver hair spread across the stone floor like threads of light. Daniel knew hiding would not be enough. The hunters would return. They had machines, weapons, and endless patience. But he also knew one thing they did not. This was his world. And humans, even without glowing eyes or alien ships, had a power of their own. He clenched his fists. "If they come back, we fight." Ilara stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She looked at him with confusion. "Fight? You have no weapons. They will kill you." Daniel turned back to her, determination burning in his face. "Maybe, but we humans don't give up. We make a way, even when it looks impossible, and I'm not alone." That afternoon, Daniel ran through the forest back toward the small town. He had made a decision. He could not do this alone. He needed help, people he trusted. His best friends, Mark and Sarah, listened in stunned silence as Daniel explained everything. At first they laughed, thinking he was joking, but when they saw the fear in his eyes, their smiles faded. "You're serious?" Sarah whispered. "An alien girl? Hunters from the sky?" Daniel nodded firmly. "She's real. I've seen her. She's hurt, and they're after her. If we don't do something, they'll find her, and maybe worse. They'll find us too." Mark frowned, running a hand through his hair. "Even if you're telling the truth, what can we do? We don't have lasers or spaceships." Daniel leaned forward, his voice sharp. "We don't need them. We know this land. We know the rivers, the cliffs, the old mines, the traps our grandparents used for hunting. We can use all of it. We don't fight with power. We fight with brains." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then Sarah nodded slowly. "If she's really in danger, then we help." Mark sighed, but a grin spread across his face. "All right. Let's show these hunters what humans can do." As night approached, the three of them worked together. They dragged old ropes and nets from barns, sharpened wooden stakes, set snares between trees. They dug pits near the river, covered with branches and leaves. Daniel remembered the stories his grandfather told him, of hunters trapping wolves, of farmers driving away stronger enemies with clever tricks. All the while, Ilara watched from the cave, her glowing eyes filled with disbelief. She had grown up in a world where strength meant ships and weapons, armies and orders. But here she saw something different. Humans, fragile in body yet strong in will, working together with nothing but determination. Why? She asked softly, as Daniel returned to the cave after hours of preparation. Why risk your lives? I am not your kind. I bring danger to your home. Daniel knelt beside her, his face serious. Because that's who we are. Humans protect. We fight for what matters. And right now, you matter. Her eyes widened, shimmering with something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. The night fell heavy, the forest cloaked in shadows. The hunters returned, their silver armor glowing faintly, their drones buzzing above the trees. They moved silently, confident, expecting frightened prey. But this time, the forest itself had teeth. A drone swooped low, scanning the ground, Waden was caught in a net that snapped shut, dragging it into a pit lined with sharp stakes. Sparks lit the darkness as the machine broke apart. The hunters paused. Their glowing eyes narrowed. Another drone flew forward only to slam into a wire strung between trees, its wings snapping as it crashed into the river. Then came the traps. Logs rolled down from the cliffs. Ropes snapped tight around armored legs, pulling one hunter to the ground. The forest, once quiet and harmless, had turned into a battlefield built by human hands. From the shadows, Daniel and his friends moved quickly, striking fast and vanishing. Rocks fell, branches snapped, firecrackers burst with bright flashes to blind the hunters. Every sound confused them, every step slowed them. These humans, one hunter hissed, struggling against a net. Primitive, yet cunning, the leader growled, ripping free. Do not underestimate them. End this quickly. Daniel's chest heaved as he ran through the trees. Mark close behind, Sarah ahead with a flashlight, leading the hunters toward the largest trap, a narrow gorge with loose rocks above. The hunters charged after them, confident their prey was cornered. But as they stepped into the gorge, Daniel shouted, "Now!" Sarah kicked a wooden lever. The rocks above loosened, crashing down like thunder. The hunters raised their arms, shields glowing, but the weight of the stones forced them back. One fell hard, his armor dented, his weapon lost. The forest roared with sound. Dust and smoke filled the gorge. Daniel's heart pounded, his hands shaking. But he saw something he had never imagined possible. One of the alien hunters defeated, not by alien weapons, but by human courage and creativity. In the cave, Ilara felt the ground shake. She closed her eyes, whispering, "They fight, and they win." A faint smile touched her lips. Humans, stronger than they seem. When the dust cleared, the leader of the hunters stood among the rubble, his glowing eyes burning with fury. He looked at the broken machines, at his fallen comrade, then at the dark forest around him. "These humans," he hissed, "they are not prey, they are a problem." But Daniel, standing at the edge of the gorge with his friends, raised his voice loud and steady. "This is our world. You want her? You'll have to go through all of us." The leader tilted his head, studying the boy with strange curiosity. For the first time, the hunters felt something they had never expected on this planet. Not weakness, not fear, resistance. The forest was quiet again, but not peaceful. Smoke drifted from the gorge where stones had buried one of the hunters. Sparks from broken drones still burned faintly among the trees. Daniel, Sarah, and Mark stood together, their faces pale, their clothes torn and dirty. They had fought, and somehow they had survived. Daniel's chest rose and fell fast, his hands shaking. He had never been in a fight like this, never faced death so closely. Yet inside him a strange fire burned stronger. They had done the impossible. They had made the hunters retreat. Behind them in the hidden cave, Ilara waited. She felt the tremors of the battle through the ground. When Daniel returned, mud on his face, sweat in his hair, she sat up quickly, her glowing eyes wide. "You fought them," she whispered. Daniel nodded, too breathless to speak. "And you won." Her voice cracked, filled with disbelief. Mark dropped beside the cave wall, laughing nervously. "If you call that winning. We almost got fried a dozen times." Sarah sat beside him, wiping dirt from her arms. "But we stopped them. That has to count." Ilara looked at them, 3 young humans armed with nothing but ropes, rocks, and courage, and her chest tightened. In her world, no one would have stood against hunters. No one would dare. But here, these fragile humans had risked everything for her. Why? She asked softly, her voice trembling. Why fight for me? I am not of your kind. I bring danger to your world. If I leave, if I surrender, they will stop. You will be safe. Daniel stepped closer, kneeling so his eyes met hers. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. Safe? Maybe, but safe is not the same as right. You didn't choose to be hunted. You didn't choose exile. And if we let them take you, what does that say about us? That we only care when it's easy? That we run from what's hard? Alara's lips parted, but no words came. She had lived her whole life under the rule of power. Follow or be destroyed, obey or be erased. But Daniel's words carried something different, something she had never known before. Choice. Sarah leaned forward, her tone softer. Ilara, you don't have to go back. You don't have to keep running. Maybe it's time to decide who you really are, not what they made you, but what you want to be. Ilara lowered her head, her silver hair falling across her face. Her hands trembled as she whispered, If I fight, if I stand, I will never return home. I will never see my world again. Daniel reached out, lifting her chin gently. His eyes held no fear, only determination. Then make Earth your world. Make us your people. You're not alone anymore. Her glowing eyes searched his face, and for the first time she felt the heavy chains of her past begin to loosen. Yet even as warmth grew inside her, a shadow lingered. The hunters were not gone. The leader still lived, and he would not stop. She could feel him even now, his presence pressing against her mind like a knife. They come again, she whispered, her voice sharp with dread. Stronger, angrier. They will not leave without me. Mark stood, gripping a broken branch like a weapon. Then let them come. We'll be ready, Sarah added, her voice fierce. They think humans are weak. Let's prove them wrong again. Ilara looked at them, her eyes shining. These humans were not like her people. They did not fight because they were ordered. They fought because they chose to, because they believed in something bigger than themselves. A choice. That was what she had always been denied, and now here on this small blue world she had one. She stood slowly, her body trembling but her eyes bright. No more running, she said, her voice strong for the first time. I choose to stand, I choose freedom. Daniel's chest swelled with pride. He nodded firmly. Then we stand together. Far away in the forest, the hunters regrouped. The leader stood tall, his armor scarred, his glowing eyes burning with fury. He raised his hand, summoning the remaining drones. This ends tonight, he hissed. The exile dies. The humans fall. His soldiers bowed, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The sky above the forest pulsed with red as the hunters prepared for their final strike. Back in the cave, Ilara closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath. She placed a hand against her chest, feeling the faint pulse of her power. It had always been her curse, the reason she was hunted. But now it was also her strength. Daniel watched her, his jaw tight. He felt fear in his heart, but alongside it was something greater. Courage, born not from strength, but from the simple truth that some things were worth protecting, no matter the cost. As the night darkened, the forest waited in silence. The hunters were coming, and the final battle would soon begin. But for the first time in her life, Ilara was not afraid of who she was. She had made her choice, and with humanity by her side, she would fight. The forest held its breath. Night wrapped the trees in silence, but it was not calm. A storm of danger moved closer with every second. High above, red lights flickered across the clouds. The hunters were returning, stronger, angrier, relentless. Inside the cave, Ilara stood with Daniel, Mark, and Sarah. Her glowing eyes burned brighter than before, not with fear this time, but with resolve. She had made her choice. No more running. Daniel gripped a heavy branch like a weapon. His hands shook, but his jaw was tight. They'll come for you, Ilara, but they'll have to go through us first. Mark snorted nervously. Us, with sticks? Sarah elbowed him sharply. Not just sticks. We have the land. We have each other. That's enough. Ilara looked at them, her lips trembling. She had been hunted her whole life. She had expected fear, betrayal, abandonment. Instead, these humans stood ready to fight beside her. Something inside her shifted, a warmth she had never known. The first hum echoed through the trees. The hunters arrived, stepping into the clearing like shadows made of silver. Their leader raised his weapon, his voice sharp and cold. Exile, your game ends here. Surrender and your death will be quick. Resist and your humans will suffer. Ilara stepped forward, her shoulders squared. Her voice rang clear. No, I will not surrender. Not to you. Not anymore. The leader's eyes glowed brighter. Then you die with them. He thrust his arm forward and the battle began. The forest exploded with noise. Drones swooped down, beams of red light cutting through the trees. Daniel and his friends ducked behind rocks and logs, their traps springing to life again. Nets snapped, ropes tightened, and spikes hidden under leaves skewered one drone after another. Mark lit firecrackers, throwing them into the dark. They burst with light and sound, confusing the machines, scattering their sensors. Sarah swung a rope weighted with stones, striking a drone from the air. But the hunters were stronger than before. Their armor deflected arrows. Their shields absorbed falling logs. They pushed forward, step by step, weapons glowing with deadly energy. Daniel swung his branch, smashing one drone into the ground, sparks flying. His chest burned, his arms ached, but he refused to stop. This is our world, he shouted. You don't get to take it. Ilara raised her hand, her glowing eyes blazing. A wave of energy burst from her, freezing two drones mid-air. They shook violently, then collapsed in flames. The ground trembled under the force, but the power drained her body. She fell to her knees, gasping. Daniel rushed to her side, pulling her up. Stay with me. She met his eyes, her voice ragged. I cannot hold it. Much longer. Daniel's heart pounded. He knew this was the moment. If she fell now, everything would end. The hunter leader stepped closer, his tall frame glowing with menace. He raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Ilara. You are weak, he hissed. You chose wrong. These humans cannot save you. Daniel stood in front of her, spreading his arms wide. His voice thundered louder than he thought possible. Maybe we are weak. Maybe we don't have ships or weapons. But we don't give up. That's what makes us human. And if you want her, you'll have to kill me first. For a moment, silence fell. The hunters stared at him, surprised by the fire in his voice. Then Ilara rose behind him, her body trembling but her eyes blazing like twin stars. She placed her hand on Daniel's shoulder, her power flowing through her like never before. No, she said, her voice echoing across the forest. You will not take him. You will not take this world. Not while I live. A shockwave of light burst from her body, sweeping across the clearing. The drones shattered like glass, their pieces falling like burning rain. The hunters staggered, their shields flickering. The leader roared, swinging his weapon, but the ground itself split under Ilara's energy. Roots twisted from the earth, rocks cracked, the air shimmered with power. The hunters, strong and merciless, stumbled back for the first time. They looked not at prey, but at something far more dangerous. A human standing with an alien who had found her strength. The leader hissed, his glowing eyes dimming. This is not over. We will return. Then with a sharp signal the hunters retreated. Their ships rose from the forest, red light fading into the sky. The silence returned, heavy and broken only by the sound of water rushing in the river. Daniel dropped his branch, his chest heaving. He turned to Ilara, who collapsed into his arms, exhausted but alive. Her glowing eyes dimmed to a soft light. You did it, he whispered. We did it. Ilara's lips curved into the faintest smile. Not just survive. Free. Sarah and Mark staggered into the clearing, bruised but grinning. Mark let out a shaky laugh. We actually beat them. We beat aliens. Sarah looked at Daniel and Ilara, her voice soft. Not just us. It was all of us together. The night faded and dawn painted the forest in gold. For the first time in her life, Ilara felt no chains, no fear of capture. She had chosen freedom, and she had found something more, not just safety but belonging. She looked at Daniel, his tired face lit by the morning sun. You changed everything, she whispered. Daniel shook his head. No, you did. We just stood with you. Their eyes met, and in that moment words were not needed. Between them grew something fragile, something new, a bond neither of their worlds had prepared them for. But high above earth, hidden in the stars, voices whispered. Not all hunters were gone. Not all eyes had turned away, humans. The cold voices murmured, are not to be underestimated. The galaxy had noticed, and Earth would never be the same.